Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
And how are you
So
doing?
what are you thinking? I see you got something behind you there that looks pretty cool. Something
Yeah, Northern Lights. I'm out
yeah.
here. It's supposed to get really cold tonight, so
Yeah, we're getting hammered up here.
I
Um
bet.
it's not as bad yet, but I'm gonna be curious to see what it's gonna be like in the morning time. So yeah.
And we're
But
expecting a little bit of snow, I think, tonight, but it's a cold. It's a wind chill factor that's going to get us down here in West Virginia.
yeah, yeah. Well, it is what it is, right? Right.
Yeah,
Quit looking at yourself and look at the camera.
I'm looking at the camera.
Uh, so what you been up to? I know that you have been uh doing the karaoke stuff on the weekends. How's that going?
That's going good. I'm got a really good show gig going up on Saturdays. On New Year's, I'm doing a live performance for at the Charleston, West Virginia Eagles, three
Oh, okay.
45-minute sets.
Cool, cool, cool. So how you like doing that?
I love it.
So, there's a lot of things that, you and I pretty much talk on a daily basis. Give a few, right?
Right.
But there's a lot to this. A lot of our listeners, they don't know yet, but um I got COVID in 2020, October 2020, and it kind of hit me hard. And Kris, ever since I got out of the hospital, he's been talking to me on a daily basis. Um, because I really didn't have anybody else to talk to. Um, but you were there for me, and I thank you for that. You know,
You don't have to thank me for that. That's what friends are for.
but I think through it all the everything that had transpired and what happened. It was a learning experience, and but man, what a ride! What a ride! Yeah,
Well, I'll never forget when you called me up. You were in coma. You called me up somehow and wanted me to come break you out. And I was coming to get you.
you could have tried, but you wouldn't have succeeded.
Well,
At least it's in your heart. I know you would have.
I
Yeah,
thought of all kinds of excuses. It was like, if they won't let me in there. Now, this is before you told me how secure it was. I'm like, if they won't let me in there, I wonder if he's able to climb down a rope.
from 7 floors up, right?
I didn't know how high up in the air you were or anything. I was prepared to go there and lower you out of a rope out the window to get you out of there.
Man, that would have been a trip. That would have been something else. To be honest with you, I the funny part about that is that we could share the story another time, but the funny part about that is that in my when I was trying to contact you, there was a it was really weird because I was in a garden and I was sitting on a bench and I kept on telling Jody, give me the phone, tell him get me out of here. I gotta get out of here. And and it was like kind of like a spring day. And 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 when I don't know how I even talked to you because I had a trach in my in my right
I
here.
had a hard time understanding what you're saying. And you
I
were
kept
writing you were writing
she
stuff down
didn't
on paper for Jody to read to me.
she didn't know what I was saying either.
But it could have been worse. Everything could have been worse. So you were a fortunate person and you survived.
Yep,
And I stood right. Well, I didn't stand by you, but I was here giving you moral support all the way along the way.
yep.
And you were really depressed because, just what happened to you from the man you were to who you became for a short period of time. And as I
Yeah,
told you, you will get better. I mean, I spent 8 years working in physical therapy, so I knew a little bit about physical therapy. And it's never over. When your mind tells you, I can't do this, then you're not going to do it. But as long as you have the motivation to do something, and I've seen it happen time and time again where people were paralyzed, but they didn't give up and they still had motor skill
yeah,
and they developed movement again, range of motion, and the range of motion grew and grew and grew. The nerves came back, feeling came back. May not have been 100%, but still, it will and can.
right.
And when someone says you can't do something, don't listen to that. Always believe and always try.
Well, that I remember actually was talking to my therapist today, and we were talking just about that. And um, to give you, listeners or who are watching this right now, I was literally like I had to learn how to walk all over again. I had to. My left hand was all messed up. Uh, for the longest time, I had no feeling. I had no grip. I couldn't even, I couldn't even hold a fork or anything in my hand. And but you know, my motivation was to get the hell out of there was one thing, but the other motivation was that I wanted to go back to work. I really wanted to go back to work more than anything. But you know, there's I guess there's good with bad because while I was in the hospital, I got two grandsons, and that was a lot of motivation right there because I didn't want to be stuck at home. And anyway, the therapist was talking. She goes, you at any time could have gave up, and your life would be totally different than what it is today. And
Absolutely.
I was just like, yeah, well, it makes sense. And of course, Joe told me the same thing. He goes, look how far you've come. Why are you making it more difficult? Look at the progress. Look at where you were, and now look where you are today. And I said, yeah, I'm doing good. And then, but I think one of the biggest things that I did was I wanted to better my life at all areas. And then I had bariatric surgery, gastric sleeve, which is a lot different than the other ones. And it doesn't, it's kind of like, it's real funny because the other day I was talking to my dietitian and not my dietitian, my doctor, and he was asking me, he goes, so do you have any questions? And I said, well, the only thing I'm worried about is overeating. And he goes, well, let me put it this way to you. He goes, have you gotten sick? When you eat, have you thrown up? And I go, no, I haven't done it at all. He goes, then you haven't overate. He goes, if you're not, he goes, if you overeat, you will throw up and you will get sick. And I said, oh, okay.
Didn't you say
So,
that for the first several months you had to breastfeed?
no, but, they say breast milk's good for you. So, but I yeah, I mean it was tough, but I look back and Jesus, without going into it, just kind of to put it in perspective for everybody else. Um, when I got sick, went to sleep with Trump in office. I woke up with Biden in office,
He thought you
and
woke up in hell.
yeah. Oh shit!
When
What
Trump
the?
when Trump first went into office, you know where I was at?
No, I don't
I was in the
remember.
Philippines.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I watched him, take office when I was in the Philippines.
you know, and it's it's like I don't even know where I was.
You were in another,
No, I'm saying when he took office,
oh, yeah.
I wasn't. If that was that far back, then boy, you know, one of the other things that we talked about that was kind of interesting is the fact that my son, God bless his heart, he likes to mess with me a lot, and he goes, "Dad, wake up! You're still in the hospital. Wake up!" And I said, "Don't do that," because I
You talking
seriously,
about after you got out of there?
well, yeah, he just
Oh
did it like
no,
he
no,
did it
no, no,
about a
no.
month ago. So
That's messed up.
I was like, in my mind, and he knows, and I mean, I'm not mad at him, but I mean, he knows that I can't distinguish between what's real and not. That's how real my coma was, and the one thing that it is wouldn't it be a bitch? This is what he said, Dad. Wouldn't it be a bitch if you just woke up right now and you were in the hospital? That everything that you did in the last 2 years has been nothing but a dream world that you're living in. I was like, good Lord, don't do that to me. I
Well, the story that you had, which, of course, you said we're not going to get into right now, but just to elaborate some icing on the cake was such an amazing story. I would actually love if the world did do what happened in your dream because at first I was like, hell no. But then after I heard you tell the story, I'm like, wow, all the bad would be gone. All
yep,
the unhealthy foods would be gone.
yep.
Uh, the world would be just such a better place and all that, yeah, I would sacrifice what I had to do that.
You know, and it, to try to explain to anybody is it's really hard, but it's like when you first heard it and you were like, ah, no way, there's no way. And I said, just listen. You know, there's no hunger. Everywhere you go, you're provided with food. Like the time when I was in my house and I walked up onto the front porch and I lived out in the country, there was no house around me. There was just I had like a farm. I had a barn out back. The house was older. It was a two-story house. It had a porch that wrapped around it. The grass hadn't been cut, of course. I mean, it didn't have a perfect lawn. It was um a home like out in the country, and it just looked like a farmhouse, and it was like amazing. And I remember walking in the front door. The door was actually open, but the screen door I opened up. I walked through and I look around, and I can to this day I can smell like it just smelled like an older house, but it was clean. Everything was perfectly clean. And then I went up and I went upstairs. I walked up the stairs, and at the top of the steps, there's three bedrooms, two on one side and one on the other, which down the hallway had a big old bathroom, and the master bedroom was the one on the left. And it had a bathroom that joined to it, and then it had two bedrooms on the other side. And then I'm not 100% sure, but it's it was a little bit different. So, um, with that being said, it was just an amazing uh, experience. And
Part of your
so,
experience, some of the things that you said actually, and one of the part of it where you had the beds that came up out of the floor, that was like, wow, that would give a lot of floor space that you normally would not have. And then you're
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like it was really weird because you would literally you it looked kind of like a rug kind of a deal, and you would get ready, you'd have your pillows and you'd lay down, and this thing would lift up out of the ground, and your body would just, it would mold to your body, and then you could pull a blanket over you, and it was just amazing. It was just amazing. I
Well, a
mean,
lot of the things out of your, I don't know what, I hate to call it a dream because it was more than a dream. It was so realistic.
right.
But with
Yep.
everything that you said in there, there's a lot of things that I could see, I could really see happening. And when you look at our world around us today, we're really not that far from what could be with your, what would I call it? It wasn't a dream.
I yeah,
Dimension?
I think about that all the time. I don't like calling it a dream, and I don't like calling it a coma. I really don't. I like calling it something more, and it's like kind of like I maybe I got a chance to see what life was going to be like on the other side, you know, and
Well, I'm a firm believer on the other side because, that time when I died and I was in heaven, and I met Jesus and I got to talk to him. He talked to me actually. And everything that was told to me by him made me understand who I am. And then when I came back to, I was in the morgue at CMC General Hospital. So there is another side, and there's so much more than what the average person could ever accept or believe until you're there.
right,
Because there's so many people that would think, oh, you were just dead and you floated into the light, the operating light, you were, whatever. And they could say the same thing about you. But when you're the person that was there and it's so realistic, it sticks with you. You're never gonna forget anything that happened to you for the rest of your life. That's how real it was to you, as with me. And I got to go on tour around the United States, and I spoke to so many people about their outer body experiences. And we did this, we traveled everywhere. In fact, the lady that took me on the tour, her name was Iris B. Wright, and she was from ACT, the largest church in the United States. I think they had like a congregation of 7,000 people or something.
right,
And she was a truck driver who looked like Pamela Anderson when she was a driver 15 years before I met her. And she was pulled out of the truck in Pomona, California, Long Beach area. And she was in an industrial park, which is just outside of uh, like a project or something in the area.
right, right.
They tried to rob her. They pulled her from the truck and she fell fetal position all the way to the ground. And she thought they were urinating on her, but they were pouring kerosene on her and they threw a match on her and lit her up and they stole her truck. They killed her just
Dang,
to steal her truck. And 15 years later, when I met her, she didn't have the breast or anything. I mean, she had scars over 90% of her body because she was covered in third-degree burns. And she told me this story that the whole time that she was in coma, she was in heaven with Jesus. And Jesus walked with her, talked with her, spent a lot of time in death with Jesus. And she came back here, and I did the first annual Christian truck show in Franklin, Indiana. And weeks later, I had a knock on the door. And I was getting ready to put an ad in the paper in Nashville looking for a tour bus driver. And this lady knocked on the door. I didn't recognize her. And she was like, I'm your new driver. I'm like, what? I didn't put an ad in the paper yet. How'd you know about that? She looked up like, oh, well, my boss told me. And she kept looking up in the air every time she talked about her boss. But she never said God. She never said Jesus. And she hit the nail right on the head every time. And she said, well, you're going on tour and we already have the bus for you. And you don't have to do anything, but it's not going to be the tour you think it is. We're going to take you to all the truck stops in America, and you're going to perform at the truck stops in America. And the money you make from at the truck stops that we make from you doing that, we're building a truckers chapel in Sierra Leone, Africa, which we made enough money. We built the church there from the tours that I did. But to hear everything that she had to say and all the people I met along the way, their stories like your story, it just leaves you in awe. And someday I'd love to be able to write a book about all the stories that were told to me, like your story, my story, her story, and all the other people's stories that were told to me, because it's just so interesting. And I know that every person that told me their story of their death, you can't just make this stuff up. You
No,
can't.
no, no, no. It's it's uh it's like one of those things where you just kind of wake up and you really don't. It's so hard. It's sometimes it's just so hard to uh just fathom of what goes on in a person's mind when you're in a situation like that. It's just, it's still to this day, it just blows my mind.
Well,
Um,
you know, I have a photographic memory. I've always had a photographic memory. And ever since you first told me about your story, you've never changed. Every every bit of it has never changed. It's always been exactly as it was. So there's no doubt that I know you lived that because you don't change it. It's always exactly how it was, and you're so ad-libbed about it. And that's the part that gets me is like, and when you hear the full story, which I've heard your story, I've heard you tell your story multiple times, and I can never get enough of it because it's like that would be a world that I would like to live in. Because right now, and I don't want to get into politics, but right now, with these certain few people that are taking over or trying to take over our country are destroying our life the way we know it. And I firmly believe that's all about to change. But there's people out there that are like that, that only think of their self. No matter what they do, they only think of their self. And they'll take the world just to have their own pleasures. We need to get rid of these people permanently.
yep, yep, yep. So yeah, I mean, uh, it's just like one of those things where you just don't know what to do. So anyway, well, we're gonna take a break. We'll be right back, and we'll continue this conversation. All right.
All right.
So where
I thought
were
it was
we?
family reunion.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It was actually, it was really, uh, I was actually liking our conversation where it was going. So I feel kind of, now I feel a little jaded, you know.
Hey, you playing
So
your guitar back there? Or where'd it go? There you are. You got your guitar in the background?
yep,
Is that a Fender amp?
yep.
I hear you.
That's um, it's called a Cyber Deluxe. That's, all that guitar playing that you
Yeah.
heard me. That's what was in the studio.
Oh, wow.
But I had Apex pedals all around. So,
All right.
but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So don't mind me. I'm just trying to do some editing here.
Oh, I thought you were
So
Christmas shopping.
no, I don't do Christmas. I got my grandson something. So,
How old
but
are they now?
two.
Wow.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Cecil will be two tomorrow.
Wow. Well, happy early birthday.
Yeah. So yeah. So where were we in our conversation? Oh, we were talking about, no, where were we? Where did we leave off? Because
And I was,
I'm pretty sure people want to hear the rest of it.
yeah, we were sitting here talking about how much you love Boy George. And
Oh, you are so full of shit. It's like unbelievable. No, no,
uh,
that's your heart. That's your heartthrob, not mine.
we left off talking about all the people that we've acquired in our lifetime and the stories that it couldn't be
Oh
something
no,
made up.
right. We were like covering the my comb and stuff like that. So, but oh, that's right. We were talking about the new world. That's what we were talking about. You know, you're right. It would be the perfect place. The perfect place. The only part I didn't care for is I was part of a task force that
Look at your thumb.
Oh, that's because I was working on a snowblower, remember?
Yeah.
Before we did the show,
I
you
didn't know if
were,
you ran out of toilet paper or what. I mean,
you know, you were, you were, you were, what's the word I'm
well,
using?
you remember when you first went in coma, that was back about the era, I believe, wasn't it not? When you couldn't get toilet paper?
It was before I got sick when people were
Yeah.
panicking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't get toilet paper anywhere. I'm like, I still didn't know what that had to do with anything.
Tonight, I went to the store tonight. After I got home, I let the dogs out, went to the store, and I went to go get some lettuce, and there was one head of lettuce, and it was like this small. And I said, well,
Everybody's
that ain't
went
gonna do
crazy.
me no good. So then there
Everybody went
was,
crazy. Every time there's a storm, everybody goes crazy and they buy out everything.
uh, people don't want to starve. They're panicking. They got kids. They got all this other stuff. But yeah, yeah, I remember no toilet paper deal. I couldn't figure that out to this day. And now that you brought that up, what did toilet paper have to do with anything?
Well, I had a couple years to think about that, and I think it's because there were certain people that were full of it.
Full of shit. Yeah.
Something.
Uh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
agree.
and during the whole pandemic, we had no, you couldn't get toilet paper, you couldn't get formula, you couldn't get something to do with sports. I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was something to do with football or something. But there were several episodes of things that you could not get. And that was a strange, and there were a lot of people that invested every penny they had on buying toilet paper.
Yeah, there was one dude. There was one dude that bought like $30,000 worth of toilet paper, and he had it delivered to his house. And then what he was going to do is he was going to put it on Amazon and try to sell it because there was no toilet paper. He was going to make, I think it was like $4 more than what he did. You know what I'm saying? And that's when they put that ban on Amazon. They couldn't do that no more.
What wasn't it recycled toilet paper? He's going to sell the shit out of
Good one. Good one. Yeah, good one. You got me on that one.
it.
So, yeah, I remember that. I, there was this time I remember, uh, it was probably last summer, and I was talking to this one woman who her and her husband went through a rough time during COVID, and she, her husband, um, her husband thought it would be wise to um cover his body in Vicks rub because it would be the only way that he could draw the virus out of his system.
I bet he had a mom like mine.
Oh my God. I was like, she said he went to the store and he bought like six of those big jars and he was wiping it all over his body.
Oh my
And
God.
I was like, did it work? She goes, no, some bitch still got COVID. And I was like, the
But he
thing's
probably didn't get any mosquito bites.
probably not. I would dare say no. I mean, it's it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, a lot's been happening right now, and like I said, we're not going to get into it right now, but I am gonna I am gonna get a show together so that you and I can go on our rants this one time
All right.
because it's every day you wake up to something stupid and
That
you
is
can
true. I mean, the world has, it's like, what happened? I mean, it wasn't too many years ago. It seemed like when I went to the Philippines, we lived a perfectly normal, everyday life. Trump won the office. I came back to America and people were standing out in the street naked screaming,
Oh,
he's weird. Um, we had 7-foot vaginas running down the road. I mean, what the hell? And it's never gotten normal. Now we've got,
no, it's gotten worse.
yeah, I mean, that's like up there in your state. I remember reading about these, well, in fact, I think you told me about it, where they had to put kitty litter boxes in the bathroom. I'm like, what the hell? You know, when we were children, if they would lock them in padded rooms, they would realize, you know, I don't think I want to be a cat anymore.
Right, right.
You
Oh
know,
Lord have
I grew up
mercy.
listening to John Wayne, Dirty Harry, Gunsmoke, all these great movies when I was younger.
Yeah.
The world seemed pretty solid. I mean, we had good years, we had bad years, but they were all normal, what we would think to be normal. And it just kept getting weirder and weirder. But it didn't happen just like several years ago. It was just like overnight.
Oh, I know.
The gates of hell opened, and just overnight, the world became weird. And you know, you talk about conspiracies. When you talk about the depths of my mind, what I thought is like, are these aliens? I don't mean from across the border. I mean, it's like, are they taking over our planet and trying to disguise themselves as humans? I
Right.
mean, because it just got too weird too fast. I don't know.
Well, I think uh let's not go down that road right now. Please. I beg of you.
No, that's
Because
fine.
I there is a lot I have to say. As a matter of fact, there's way too much I have to say. And I'm sure we both feel that way. It's but the problem with it is it's hard not to talk about it.
Well, yeah, everybody gets, I guess it's proper to say butthurt. No matter what it is you say, you're not allowed to have your own opinions anymore.
No.
You know, and then there's certain groups of people that just get extremely offended when this used to not be a problem. It's like we can't be politically correct anymore. We have to be corrected about everything.
Right.
And it seems like all the good is trying to be turned bad, and all the bad is trying to be turned good.
Well, um the it's kind of like this. If you
You have a guest,
I know it's Coda.
Coda.
Coda, your mom's here. Anyway, so yeah, I mean everything is it's not messed up too bad, but the country is. But it's the inflation. You know, not long ago I went in and I bought maybe 6, 7 items and it was almost $60.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, oh my God. Oh my God. So yeah, I mean, all right, we're gonna take a commercial break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Uh so yeah, everything's a mess in our country and you know, it's 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 really gonna affect a lot of people. It's gonna affect us, it's gonna affect our children, our grandchildren. But I I can hope for a world that will eventually get better. you know,
Well,
um,
you said it there because it's not just our country; it's the world.
it's the world. It's not just. It's not. It's. The whole thing is just. It's a joke. But But you know. I mean, look at you. You know, look where you've come from way back. I mean, I remember when we used to do our shows. You were, we had so much fun. Twice a week we just had a
Well,
great time.
I was in college and coming out of college to do the show in a I was still performing and I was still full-time in college and I went through several colleges. I was at Bridgemont when we started the show. Then I went to Mountain State. Then I went to West Virginia State University. So we did the shows for what, 11 years?
Long time.
Yeah. A lot of really great guests, a lot of unusual guests, which, yeah. Hey, have you had anybody build a popsicle ship lately?
No. The good thing about this is here's what's changing. We used to do the podcast, people would listen to the podcast. People can still listen to the podcast that we're doing tonight, but they actually can go to YouTube and watch us. And that's where it's going to be like a very good, it's going to be a nice transition in order to do that way. And people will literally, we'll get back into the swing of things. We're taking a little bit of a different approach. Kris and I have talked about this numerous times, and we're just going to continue. We're going to bring back Late Night with Rob and Kris, but it's going to have a little bit of a different twist to it. And what do we mean by that? It's going to go back to the roots, and the roots is strictly talk radio. And we're not going to be playing music. If anything, we'll play some videos or whatever that what has you. But I think I think Kris can agree that our technology has evolved enough now where we can reach out, and we can reach out to it, more and more people. And with today's Zoom, like what we're doing right now, we can get 5-6 people in this and talking, and it's an easy
We
way
had a
to get
lot of
guests. What's that?
garage bands. We had a lot of garage bands that since we put them on there, that several of them had multi-million dollar deals on major record labels.
I know.
Some of them, God rest them in peace, are no longer with us today. They're dead.
Yeah,
Uh,
we've had a few of those.
you
Yeah,
know, I'll never forget when Noah Guthrie, when I
Christina
talked to him,
Grimmie.
and yeah, well, Christina, how do you pronounce that? Gimme?
Grimmie.
She was on the show before, of course, before she was killed in Florida. She won The Voice.
Yep.
Noah Guthrie, we got to help him get that $1 million deal on Capitol Record, but he was, I think at the time he was about 18 years old. And
Yep.
you can find these guys on YouTube. They had, when I asked him to join our show, he had like 24 million views on his music because he's phenomenal. But then we had other people like Luke Bryant. We had Jeff Tate from Queensryche, Henry Paul. And it goes on and on. Remember that one metal band, Broken Rail,
Oh yeah. Yeah,
out of
I
Auburn?
still have, as a matter of fact, I have all their music. Yeah. I talked to
Wasn't
every
long ago I
major.
found that one. They sent us a copy back with the Outlaws. It's
I,
all about pride. They sent it on a CDRW or whatever you call it, the burnt CD before it was
right,
actually,
right, right.
it wasn't finished in the studio yet. And they spent 40 years together. And I'll never forget the story that he told us on the radio. He was like, in the beginning days of the Outlaws, we were going through Atlanta, Georgia. I was standing up at the back of my pickup truck while they were holding my belt and I'm urinating going down the interstate.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's like, the stories you just can't make this stuff up. It's like, wow,
As much as you would try to want to,
that
you
was
know.
such a great interview. And when we listened and played their music, it's all about pride. You could hear what 40 years can do to a band.
Yep,
It was
yep,
so
yep.
tight,
I
so amazing.
um I think like uh the things that as we evolved, um it became apparent that more and more people were gonna listen to our shows. And then of course Terry come along, And he was the one that catapulted us to.
Are you talking about Pepper?
No, pepper. Shut up. Yeah. Oh yeah. Habanero avocado dip.
I'll never forget when you told me that. I said something goofy when he was in the restaurant and he choked on something. The pepper went up in his nose
We
and he
were we
jumps up
were
screaming.
well no he what happened was here's the story. So you and I were going back and forth, and we both said something, and it was you said something, and I wish we had that show. And then I delivered a line right after it, and now I'll set the scene for it. So he's at a restaurant. He's at a Mexican restaurant with his wife, and he's got corn chips, and he's got avocado and habanero with onion dip, and it's like one of the restaurant's specialties or whatever. He took a big dip and he put it in his mouth, and when that happened, when you said something, and all of a sudden I came back with this, it was like completely off the wall. He couldn't contain himself. If anybody's ever like laughed and you got milk to come out of your mouth, that's what happened to him. And all that avocado went up into his sinuses, up into his sinus cavities. And
Habanero.
he, huh?
The peppers came out of his nose. He screamed so loud they took him out of there in an ambulance, didn't
Yeah,
they?
he couldn't. He was in so much pain. There's nothing they could literally do, but they ended up calling the ambulance, and he refused to go in the ambulance. So his wife is like screaming at him and telling him what's going, because he couldn't explain what happened. He just, because she thought he was choking and he wasn't choking. Now your sinuses are. Can you imagine all that up in his sinuses?
I hope he don't get offended with his new nickname, Pepper.
I'll never forget him. Well, actually, I just talked to him recently, so he's back, and he's, it's kind of like this. He says, I see a lot of people go through this all the time. They got something really good going, and then life comes at you, and there's no stopping life. You know what I'm saying? So he's he's a little Muslim. So if you think about all the times that we were on the air and we were enjoying it, if life didn't throw a curveball at us, I think we'd be in totally different places.
We were just getting ready. I was getting ready to come to Michigan because we had so many listeners. We were on 90 FM, we're on Sirius Satellite, and we were getting ready to go live not from live radio, but TV. So we're doing radio, but we're going into TV, and I was getting ready to come to Michigan to train how to do the TV segments that we're doing
Right.
and shoot a lot of the episodes. And then you vanished. And I'm like, I kept thinking, did I say something to offend you? Because we've been good buddies at the time, well over a decade.
And I can get
And
offended easy. So
well, not that easy. I mean, you always bounce back after a day or two. If I did something,
I got a bad temper sometimes. Yeah.
if I said something that just, I sent you a picture the other day that reminds me so much of you. It was on the movie Dumb and Dumber where they're back there in the car,
Yeah.
back and forth, and the guy in the middle is just like, that's you. That's you. That's but anyways, but you always bounce back. I mean, it's never something that ever lasts long. And then after a week, still nothing. 2 weeks, nothing. I'm like, wow. And I'm really starting to worry about you now. I mean, it wasn't until your daughter had contacted me what was going on with you. I mean, because you were perfectly fine. And then the next day you're fighting for your life. We've gone a long way. gone a long way since then.
Well, the the
I did keep you in my prayers every day, and I did get on Facebook,
you know,
and I asked for a lot of people to keep you in the prayers when I found out what happened. We had prayer chains going for you,
oh my
and
God,
I believe in prayer. I believe in prayer chains, and I had people from around the world praying for you,
I you
and
know
you're very well loved. You had people around the world praying for you.
I when I was able to when I was able to finally do something. What actually it's when I had my laptop and I was in the rehabilitation, and I hadn't seen anything. Like my daughter created a page, and I didn't see that right away. And matter of fact, I wouldn't see that till I think I got out of the hospital. But I had so many messages, praying for you, and matter of fact, you don't really realize it's one young lady who I won't mention her name, but she said something to me. She goes, "I've never been so scared in my life that something was going to happen to you," and I appreciate that. And she goes, you scared a lot of people, and I thought to myself, I go, Jesus, I mean, honest to God, I didn't realize, like, remember when I told you I used to walk downtown Grand Haven, people would say, hey, Robert. I had a lot of people who knew me.
It wasn't just in Grand Haven. It was
Oh,
Grand
yeah.
Rap. Remember, I was up in Grand Rapids, and the people that I was associating with up there, they're like, "Oh my God, we're a big fan of his, both years at that boat
Yeah.
dealer."
Oh, yeah. I remember that. And, the thing about it is being able to, like, it's kind of like, it, it it's kind of like this feeling where people say, hey, they I know that voice. Because we weren't doing a lot of videos, but they knew the voice,
Yeah, I
and
remember several times you were walking down the street, and they would hear your voice, and they would stop and look. Robert,
yep, that's me.
back
I
at the Coast Guard Festival, especially.
Oh yeah, oh my God, yeah. Especially when I was down there with my laptop and we were doing a live show, which didn't work out the way we wanted it to, but it wasn't a video, but we were trying to do, but I just kept losing connection because there was millions of people down there. But um
You talking
uh
about the time when you forgot to wear your pants?
why what?
When you forgot to wear your pants, you're in such
No,
a hurry. You're standing there in your underwear.
never did that. I don't think I did. If I did, I was really trash.
Well, it would
Really,
definitely make a lot of attention.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I there was like oh, I remember there was this young guy who this is after you left the show, and well, you didn't leave, you took a hiatus, let's just say you took a leave of absence.
For good
And
reason too. Just so the listeners understand and know what happened. I was very close to a nervous breakdown my own self because I lost my
mhm,
children, went through a divorce,
yep,
lost my dog, uh, trying to deal with going full time in college.
yep, yep,
At the time, I was on a bachelor's degree. Uh, it was a lot going on for me. And when you lose your children through a divorce and you're as close to your children as I am, it was just,
it was a
you
rough
don't
time
really
for you.
realize when you're close to a nervous breakdown until you are, when you pulled me aside and was like, you're repeating yourself over and over.
And the thing about that is is I have to, I'll just say it straight out. I am not the one that noticed it, because you and I were always fluent in talking, and it was a number of people who said, what's going on? And then what I did was, is once they said that, and then I became hyper aware, and I started noticing it. And then it wasn't like, it was a small decline, and it just became too much, because you would be talking, and we'd be we'd be talking about a subject, and you would be talking about something that we already talked about, and it was a part of your life and stuff like that. And and it was just a repeat. We weren't gaining any traction, going anywhere in any conversation that we were having. So Kris just said, hey, I got to take a step back. And that's when I had Christy Baker, who filled in for you. But that's kind of leading up to the young guy we had. Um, this guy was a country rapper. His name was Bandit Farley.
Oh, you scared me for a minute. I thought you were talking about Tex.
No, no, we'll get into him down the road. But um, Bandit Farley, good kid. He worked in the oil fields. Um,
Was he a host?
yeah, no, he was one of my guests.
Oh, oh,
And he was a hip hop country singer, rapper. I never in my whole life ever heard of a rapping country singer in my whole life. Never heard of it, but I guess it was pretty popular. And he played this one song, and it was called Chevy Truck. And when I listened to the song, I was like, that doesn't sound too bad. I thought, and I'm not a person that likes rap at all. But I was like, that doesn't sound that's. So I met him, and um and he wanted me to manage him, which I told him I wasn't going to do that, because that was after what happened with Matt.
right.
And this is when you were um definitely not in the picture. You were rehabilitating and stuff like that. And anyway, he wanted me to do the same thing I did for Matt. And I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna have to tell you this. If you want me to do the same thing I did with Matt, then you're gonna have to cough up some money, you know. And he wanted me to do it all for free. And I said, I'm not free. I'm not gonna do this for free. I got bit real bad. I can't really go into the details because of legal stuff, but um, I was, once bitten, twice shy, they say. And I was just completely railroaded by the whole thing. And Bandit, he literally, I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build you a website. We're going to do some marketing and stuff. This kid would go out to parking lots, kind of like, what you do. And he would set up his stuff, and he had t-shirts. He had all this stuff. He set up a tent, and he would go out there and he'd rap, do his in a parking lot. And that's how he gave away a lot of CDs and all this other stuff. And he did a really cool. As a matter of fact, I should remind me after we're done here, and I'll send you the video. The video was amazing. I mean, whoever did his video work was absolutely blew me away. I mean, it was really good work. And I don't know how much he spent on it, but I would find out later that, he would get a lot of people to work for him, but he wanted everybody to do it for free. And I just told him I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that for free. And so there was this one time, and he goes and he says to me, he goes, "You always want money." And I go, "Well, don't you? I mean, are you going to go out there and do your shows for free?" "Yeah, I'll go out there because it's going to get my name out there." I go, "Then you don't need me. You go market yourself. You keep doing what you're doing, and you'll be a superstar before you know it." I
Well, when
heard
I
him.
started, that's what I did. I went down to Music Row, and I made up my mind back in the 90s. I moved to Nashville in the winter of 95, 96. I started performing on Music Row right across from Shoney's at the Hat Closet. And within no time, I was known as the person with the loudest, most powerful PA system on the strip out there. And we had the decibel law. If you couldn't get above a certain decibel without getting a ticket.
Yeah,
And Carrie was doing the sound for me, my ex-wife.
right.
And when you see the police walking the strip out there, the volume would slowly go down as they got closer. And as they went further away, the volume got louder again. And they never caught on what we were doing or whatever. And they would call me from blocks away requesting songs. But I was out there almost every day, except for, rainstorms or in the wintertime when it got really bad. But I was out there almost every day for 2 years and had a lot of, like Richard Raines with the band Perfect Stranger. They'd park their tour bus out there while they were on tour. They sat there for about an hour and something and watched me do my show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd get out there with my cordless and I'd just, I loved it. I was out there all day long, as hot as it was in Nashville in the summertime.
Yeah.
All I had was a fan on me, and I never paid attention to the heat. I mean, I stayed hydrated. I even had at West Virginia State, I had a voice and diction teacher tell me there's no way in the world you could have sang that many hours. A human can't do that. And like, yeah, you want proof of that? I did. I did every day and I loved it. You can't, it's just like to be in the Olympics. You don't just one day I'm going to be in the Olympics and go in the Olympics. You train. You
Right.
build your body to do that. And then after a while, you're used to doing that. If you're going to be in a long jog or a run or hike or whatever, you have to condition yourself to be able to do that. You
Mm-hmm.
just don't, do it in a week or two or three. I did it for years, 2 years, over 2 years, I believe it was 2.5 years. And there for a while, I got discouraged because I didn't think it was helping me. And so I quit for like a week or two, maybe a month. And when I went back down there, everybody was honking and waving, like you could just feel the excitement where they really missed me.
All right.
And
Right.
I
Yeah.
loved it. I
Well, it
mean,
happens. You're going out there. You're making a. It's just like kind of what Terry said. Here's this is you know the words of a man that is 4 radio stations in Seattle, 2 in Las Vegas, and 1 down in Houston. And he says, the sad part about it is that um, we as a team at the time could have went to limits that we're slowly and surely we were creeping in the right direction at a speed that was very comfortable. And you and me, um, we never rehearsed what we were going to talk about. We
no,
never, we just went at it blinded, and there was, you got to admit, there was sometimes that just, you kind of wanted to quit for that night and just wrap it up. But I think that's why we started introducing music a little bit more and playing music in between talking and stuff. But where our strengths were, our biggest strength was as let me explain this. So late night with Rob Kris, we had a huge following, but we didn't have as many live listeners while we're live than we did with the Morning Meltdown. The Morning Meltdown, we had more live listeners than we did them downloading podcasts. And uh that was a full-time job.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we both had what we would do. We'd have a topic, 10 topics each.
Yep.
I'd go out and find my 10, and you would find your 10. And it had to be something interesting, something off the beaten path. You
Right.
didn't want to wear out something that was on mainstream radio. And so we came out with some really interesting topics.
Well, the what worked for us, is exactly what you're talking about. And so to explain why it like the morning meltdown was, we started at, I think it was 5:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
and we went till 10 o'clock.
You know how difficult that was for me?
Oh my God, it was, yeah, I do know, because you bitched about it quite a bit. But
Well, get out of school and being a father,
yeah, but we were
being a
doing,
husband at the time.
we did it for 6 weeks,
Well,
every
let me
day.
interrupt for a second. Now, first of all, my living experience at the time, my ex-wife and I were full-time in college, and we were living in a town, a good distance from the house. So we had this bright idea of living in an RV. I seen a couple of doctors that were at the hospital that were living in an RV on the parking lot. Like, that's a great idea. We'll go out and we'll buy a really big RV. We'll live in it during school. Then
Right.
after we graduate from school, we'll sell it or just use it for camping. It seemed like a great idea at the time, but I'll never forget having my Christmas tree. There was no room inside the RV for the Christmas tree. So I put the Christmas tree out in the yard, and I decorated it, and I watched the wind blow my balls off. Well, that didn't sound right. I watched the wind blow the Christmas balls off. It was so cold.
They're not balls, they're bulbs. B
No, not
U
the
L
bulbs, the
B.
balls, the Christmas balls. Yeah, you hang your balls out.
Bulbs.
Well, I had bulbs on there too, light bulbs, but I'm talking about the Christmas
Oh, you're doing
balls.
it again. You are such a hillbilly. I swear to God.
They're round balls.
I understand they're not balls. There's there is Christmas lights that have bulbs, but the things that hang, the what you're calling bulbs, is actually called Christmas bulbs.
All my life, I called them Christmas balls.
Well, that's because you're a hillbilly. That's why.
Well, it froze my balls off and they blew off. So regardless,
I can actually picture that. Yeah. I
well,
mean,
I mean, we're sitting there watching, and I had strings tied and staked to the ground to hold it up there. But I had to buy a building. Now, this is by a railroad track. I bought a building, overly insulated it, so no outside distraction while we're doing the radio show.
right, right. I remember
And
that. Yeah.
I did the radio show out of the building.
You had two buildings.
I had two buildings, and
Yeah.
one of them was a 32-foot by 15 and a two-story lofted barn. And I had the outside was T111 siding. Then I had the insulation. Then I had half-inch uh, plywood particle board, and then I had half-inch sheetrock, and it was almost soundproof, almost completely soundproof. And
Yep.
you could heat the whole building up with a 1,500-watt heater. But regardless, we did all this so we could have a little bit more space because we were in college up there at that college for I think it was like 2 or 3 years, and we started that show in either 2010 or 2011, and then we went with the morning meltdown, and it didn't take any time for like out Boeing in Seattle was playing it over their intercoms for all the employees, and it was new for me because you explained to me it wasn't like FM when you get out of FM and you go in a store and you come back, it's already over. They could pause it where it's at and go in there. It's like, how are they going to do that? But
Hmm.
after a while, I caught on. But it was pretty cool
Yeah.
to watch, and I'll never forget some of the things that you called me out on. Like I honestly thought it was an umbilical cord.
That was funny.
You were like, wait a minute, what? The umbilical cord when a mother gives birth to a baby, the umbilical cord, and like you hillbilly.
You say it right now, but if you listen to the intro, it's so funny because he called it a biblical chord. It's
And I was being
biblical,
serious
like
too.
it was like the, if you listen to it, it's so funny because Did he just say that? Biblical? Eh, uh, biblical. Um,
Something of a Bible.
that was funny. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, the morning meltdown was like one of our hugest strengths, and it rise to a huge popularity. But Kris, like he said, he was, he was not only we were getting up real early in the morning, both of us, we'd go from we checked in at 5:30, and then we started the show at 6, and we were done by 10:30. And believe it or not, you got to admit, 5 hours went real quick. But once we get into talking, it was this. And then one day, Kris says, "Dude, this is killing me." I said, he goes, "It's like cancer." I go, "We're doing so well." He goes, uh, and
I was doing full-time 15 and a half hours in college at the time, which if somebody doesn't understand that, that's 12 hours in college is full-time. So I was quite a bit over the full-time limit and doing the radio show and working
yeah,
and
your time was, see, the thing about it is with late night with Rob and Kris, it was 2 days a week. Morning Meltdown was Monday through Friday,
plus
every
the
morning.
Monster Theater.
And then we had like Sundays we were doing Monster Theater. That was more, you drove that train pretty good, but I I go back and I think, really hard that, Jesus, we just, and dang, I wish we hadn't lost, because there are so many funny things. I mean, my biggest memory is the dude that was eating. Remember, he was eating the what was it? These salts or something like that, and he was eating a guy on a bridge. He was eating a guy's face. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I was like, oh shit, no.
Yeah.
And we were like, and we
Joking
we
about
had
Mr.
we
Bubble.
actually had video of it, and we were like watching the video, and we were like, he's eating this dude's face. It's like, I mean, holy crap! And that's nothing compared to what the world is today. But
Well, yeah, it's
um,
quite normal now. I mean, but well, it wasn't too long after that. That's when we had these 7-foot vaginas screaming Trump was weird. I'm like, what? Look at you.
yeah, I know. See, there was a few times when everything was just perfect. I mean, and Terry, of course, he was paying all of our legal fees and uh, stuff, and he uh, he was like, "What do you mean he doesn't want to do it anymore?" And I said, he's got a lot on his plate. He's doing things that, and he goes, "Tell me again, why doesn't he want to do it?" And I go, he goes, "Well, you need to find somebody to do it." And I go, "There is nobody I can think of right off now that we can have a conversation like we did back then." And he knew it. He knew it. And so we kind
Well,
of
it was
put it.
just she was going when she graduated. My mom told me 2 years before my ex-wife graduated. She said the day she graduates, she's going to leave you, and I will be damned. How do mothers know this? The day she graduated, she was hiatus. Like wow, it was just a lot to
Happened fast. It happened real
18
fast.
years gone overnight, seemed like.
You know, it happens. Believe me, I know. I mean, that you look at like I, we did this one time. We did this Christmas show. Do you remember that? It was like Christmas Eve or something like that. And I thought for sure you were saying, yeah, people listen to us on Christmas. I go, no one's going to listen to us on Christmas. Who wants to listen to us on Christmas? And you said, um, well, how do you know that they're not gonna listen? I go, they're with family and all this other stuff. And when we did the show, I was like blown away at how many people are actually listening to us live, you know. And then so here's the question. I've been asked this quite a few times. And when I mean it quite a few times, I've been asked this a lot. And they asked if we're ever going to do like live. See, our shows are pre-recorded now. If you haven't figured this out, but um, I think it's the first say that we probably will do some live shows, but I can't promise that we'll do live shows because there's a lot of work that goes into doing these, and I have to edit. But doing live show, there's no editing, and if you screw up, it's really bad. Like the time when we got zapped by
Oh
Hillary's
God.
thugs.
You
That
know,
was,
we had a solar flare. You're talking about the solar flare?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll never
It
forget the
just
noise
went.
it made. Like, you know, it was just like everything, everybody, everywhere in North America, at least, in the United States, had an issue because we had a bad solar flare, and that sound that it made when it cut us off.
Like
Yeah.
it was, and we were gone. I mean, we couldn't even call each other back.
You know, I had like $100 a piece, not 100, hundreds of dollars a piece, monster cable surge protectors, and all. It didn't matter what you had; it was out.
No,
It
there
didn't
was
damage my gear that I know of, but
no.
it was
It
out.
just, I think what happened. My suspicion is they zapped the internet.
Well, there for a while during one of the elections, every time we talked about one party, nothing happened. But we talk about the other female party,
Oh my God.
we got cut off every time we talk about the other party that was going around whacking people, killing people. We got cut off there. I was like, wow, okay. So we'd do it sometimes.
I didn't believe it. To me, I was just like,
Well, it was too ironic, whether it was happening or not. It happened several times
right.
that we talk about that party. We got whacked off the air. I'm like, wow, okay. But then today, listening about what's happening in certain undercover agencies and the FBI and what all, you don't know. Maybe we were whacked off the air.
Oh, who knows? I mean, if you put two and two together, you just it's not hard to figure it out. At one point, you're just trying to, you know, it's kind of like this. you know, I actually work full time. Yeah, I work for a heating and cooling company, and uh, and it's this company when I first started working there. Um, I was the number 4 technician, HVAC technician at the time. And now I want you to this is just wild. This is a wild ride. We're not going backwards. I want to put this out there. So I was number 4 technician, and then um, we hired some more technicians, and then I got taken out of the field because due to an injury. And so there was like in the whole office there was maybe 12 people in the whole office. And then when I got COVID, I woke up and came back to work a year later, almost a year to the date. There was 30 people in the office, and we had people who I didn't even know, people, and that's growth, right? So the reason why I brought that up is it was just like when we were at the height of our doing what we were doing, everything that we dabbled in, like the Morning Meltdown, Monster Theater, uh, and then we had Quincy Jones who did the intro for your Monster Theater with the English girls and stuff like that. All the people who we met, everybody that we came in contact with, everything that happened, it's all led us up to who we are today. I mean, I went through a bunch of crap, and one of these times we can get together and we can discuss a lot more in detail. I've always been wanting to do that for quite a while and get into the detail of what happened, you know. And but yeah, I mean, it's just real. So enough
Well,
about me, but
we're
why don't
human
you
and we
tell
all
Rick
have ups and downs.
what's that?
We're all humans and we all have ups and downs. And you can't be humiliated by it. You can only grow from it
Correct.
because what knocks you down, you get back up, you get stronger.
I can go for that. You know, it's just like the changes that's happened in your life. You know, there's a lot of exciting news that's happened to you in just in the last couple of years. You know, they don't know, nobody knows about it yet, but um, it's pretty exciting for you. I'm very happy for you. Um, because it's good to see you happy, and it's really what's really good is it's it's good to see you coming back where your mind ain't somewhere else and your
Well, it's
focus.
good. It's like Mel Brooks once said, it's good to be king. But in other words, it's good to be loved. And when you know you're loved and you feel the love,
That's right.
it makes life easier.
Yep. 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 Yeah. I'm I I agree. I think next time we come on the air, I there's going to be some things that we're going to be talking about, and uh, me and Chris are gonna we're gonna try to do as many of these shows as we can, but at the same token, we have to, you know, we are trying to come together, but it's rough because our schedules are uh, not cooperating, you know. But I think I would like to. There's a lot I want to talk about. I mean, a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, think about this, and I, this is for another show, but here's I want to put this in the minds. James Webb telescope that it's replacing the Hubble telescope. And what we're able to see, all these galaxies, we used to know that there was hundreds of thousands of galaxies and, around us, but now we're discovering these galaxies that are out there are in the billions of galaxies throughout our universe. And that's exciting. We get to talk about that.
So if there are other life forms, we may have twins on different planets. So you may have billions of ex-wives.
Yep, yeah. Let's say that for a show. A spoiler alert. Yeah, I mean, um, me and Chris have had long discussions about this, and it's going to be a good show. You're going to want to watch that one for sure.
We may have the chosen planet. You never know.
Um, yeah, let's keep that one until we come back on that one. That's going to show in all itself. And then we got um other exciting things like uh, SpaceX, Tesla, and Twitter.
I have a few of those. That's X's. Never mind.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna end it up here. I want to thank everybody for watching us. Like I said, we're gonna try to do some more of these. Um, but in the meantime, I'll be doing some podcasts myself. Um, and I'll be talking about certain things, and then Chris can come in and elaborate on these when he's available and
Right now, I'm
everything
getting
else.
ready to go up here. As you can see in the background, I'm getting ready to try to catch a. I've been milking penguins for extra money.
Leave it to you. All right, guys. You have a wonderful evening. Thank you for listening to the show, and
And Merry Christmas.
and Merry Christmas. Yes, Merry Christmas. Thanks a lot. Oh, by the way, don't forget to follow us and subscribe to our channel so you can get like up to date shows that we upload. And pretty soon we'll be uploading shows on a weekly basis. All right, have a good one. And again, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.